Alex leaned back in her pilot's seat, gazing through the cockpit of her sleek time travel vessel. The hum of the ship's engine was a familiar, comforting sound in the otherwise endless silence of space. Today was no ordinary day. It was the culmination of months of planning, calculations, and, of course, her famous disregard for rules.
"RUSTEE, systems check,"
she called, her voice bright with anticipation. RUSTEE stands for Robotic Unit Serving Time Travel Enthusiasts Eagerly. Her trusted companion hovered beside her.
"All systems nominal, Alex. Time coordinates locked. Ready for temporal displacement,"
came the monotone response. A grin stretched across her face.
"Excellent. Let's make history, shall we?"
She pressed a series of buttons, and the ship surged with energy. A pulse ran through the vessel as it prepared to break through the barriers of time itself. Suddenly, alarms blared. Lights flashed. The vessel lurched violently, throwing Alex forward in her seat.
"Whoa, what's happening?"
she shouted, gripping the control panel.
"We're experiencing a temporal anomaly,"
RUSTEE responded with unnerving calm.
"The time warp field is destabilizing."
Alex's heart raced as the ship buckled under the strain.
"RUSTEE, I'm losing control. What's the damage?"
"The time warp field has collapsed. We're caught in a temporal vortex. Brace for impact."
The ship hurtled through space and time, a chaotic blur of colors and lights. With a deafening crash, it slammed into something solid. The world spun, metal groaned, and Alex's vision faded to black. The next sound she heard was the gentle rustling of leaves. Slowly, Alex's eyes fluttered open, her head throbbing from the crash.
"RUSTEE!"
She groaned, sitting up.
"Report."
"We have crash-landed on an unidentified planet, Alex. The ship's systems are offline. I am running diagnostics,"
RUSTEE replied, hovering beside her amidst the wreckage. Alex pushed herself to her feet, taking in the vibrant landscape around her. Massive trees towered above, their leaves a deep shade of purple. The air was thick with the calls of alien creatures.
"Well,"
she muttered, brushing herself off.
"at least it's pretty. Kind of like a tropical rainforest, but alien."
RUSTEE scanned the horizon.
"I advise caution. Our primary objective is survival."
Alex grinned, her spirit undampened.
"Don't worry, I've always been a survivor. Besides, a little adventure never hurt anyone."
They began to scavenge through the ship's wreckage, hoping to salvage whatever they could. Every step into this strange world only heightened Alex's curiosity. The jungle seemed to pulse with life. Strange bioluminescent plants glowed softly in the shadows, casting eerie light on the dense undergrowth. Alex knelt to examine one such plant, its tendrils swaying in the light breeze.
"RUSTEE, any idea what this is?"
RUSTEE scanned the plant.
"Unknown species. It emits a low-level electromagnetic field. I suggest caution."
"Caution?"
She laughed.
"Where's your sense of adventure?"
"My sense of self-preservation currently overshadows my sense of adventure."
Before Alex could respond, a twig snapped behind them. She whirled around, weapon in hand, eyes scanning the trees.
"Who's there?"
The leaves parted, and from the shadows emerged a figure. Tall and graceful, with shimmering skin and large, curious eyes, the alien was unlike anything Alex had ever seen.
"Please do not be alarmed. I understand the instinct for self-preservation, but I assure you, I mean you no harm,"
The alien said, its voice melodic and calming. Alex hesitated, lowering her weapon slightly.
Who are you?"
"I am Zephyr,
The alien said, stepping closer.
a guardian of this forest, and you are..."
"Alex."
She introduced herself, eyes still wide with surprise.
And this is RUSTEE, my companion.
The RUSTEE hovered beside her as the group made camp for the night, tilting its head slightly.
Charmed, I'm sure.
Zephyr smiled warmly.
Your arrival is most unexpected, but not unwelcome.
As they walked through the jungle, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that there was something familiar about Zephyr, despite the alien's otherworldly appearance.
This place is incredible,
Alex said, glancing around in awe.
I've never seen anything like it.
Zephyr's expression grew serious.
Our world is unique, but it is also in danger. A dark force has begun to corrupt the land.
What kind of dark force?
Alex asked, her curiosity piqued.
It stems from an ancient artifact hidden deep within the mountains. Its power is growing, threatening to consume our world.
RUSTEE emitted a series of beeps and its sensors were activating.
I am detecting unusual energy readings consistent with Zephyr's description.
Alex's resolve hardened.
We can't just stand here and do nothing. We have to help.
Zephyr looked at her with surprise.
You would help us, even though you are a stranger to this world?
Alex smiled.
Strangers can become friends, Zephyr, and friends help each other.
The wind rustled through the trees, carrying a sense of urgency. With determination in her voice, Alex added,
Lead the way. Let's put an end to this dark force.
Alex, Zephyr, and RUSTEE moved swiftly through the dense forest, their destination set on the mountains that loomed in the distance. The ground beneath their feet was soft, and the air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flowers. Strange creatures darted through the foliage every so often, their eyes gleaming in the alien twilight.
I still can't believe I'm doing this.
Alex muttered as she clambered over a fallen tree.
Hiking through an alien jungle with RUSTEE and Zephyr.
Zephyr smiled gently.
You have a brave heart, Alex. Not many would leap so readily into the unknown.
Yeah, well, brave or reckless, it's all the same to me,
she replied, flashing him a grin.
I just hope this little adventure doesn't end with us getting eaten by some giant space monster.
RUSTEE hovered nearby, ever observant.
While the likelihood of encountering a hostile creature increases as we approach the artifact, it said, I calculate that our chances of survival remain sufficient.
Comforting,
Alex said, rolling her eyes.
You're a real beacon of hope, RUSTEE.
They continued their trek, the path becoming steeper and more treacherous as they neared the mountains. The wind picked up, whipping through the trees and carrying with it an unsettling chill. Zephyr, constantly vigilant, glanced up at the darkening sky.
We are nearing the artifact. The dark force grows stronger here.
Alex could feel it too. A strange, oppressive energy that seemed to weigh down the air around them. Her skin prickled with unease, and even RUSTEE appeared more cautious as they pressed onward. The ascent was grueling, each step more precarious than the last. The jagged cliffs and narrow ledges made Alex wish she had a better sense of self-preservation, like her companion. But despite the danger, her determination didn't falter.
Remind me again why I thought this was a good idea.
Alex muttered, breathless from the climb.
Because you possess a reckless disregard for personal safety and a penchant for impulsive decisions.
RUSTEE replied in its usual deadpan tone. Alex shot RUSTEE a look.
Wow, thanks for the pep talk.
Zephyr, silently leading the way, turned and offered his hand as they reached a particularly treacherous ledge.
Be careful, Alex. The path is unstable here.
Gratefully, she took his hand, steadying herself as they continued upward.
Thanks, Zephyr. I think I owe you one.
Before Zephyr could respond, a low growl echoed through the mountains. The air shifted, thick with the presence of something malevolent. Alex's hand instinctively went to her weapon.
We must be cautious.
Zephyr said, his voice tense.
The dark force is near.
Suddenly, a monstrous creature lunged at them from the shadows of the rocky crags. Its glowing eyes burned with an eerie light, and its massive claws scraped against the stone as it charged.
Look out!
Alex shouted, raising her blaster. The battle was fierce. Alex and Zephyr fought side by side, their movements synchronized despite the chaos. RUSTEE hovered nearby, analyzing the creature's weaknesses and offering tactical advice as it dodged debris and laser blasts.
Target its joints.
RUSTEE instructed.
They appear to be its most vulnerable points.
Alex fired a quick shot, hitting the creature in one of its legs. It howled in pain, momentarily staggering. Zephyr moved gracefully, his staff-like weapon striking in swift, decisive blows. Together, they pushed the beast back. With one final roar, the creature slunk back into the shadows, defeated. Breathing heavily, Alex wiped the sweat from her brow and turned to Zephyr.
We make a pretty good team, don't we?
Zephyr, his normally serene expression brightened by a rare smile, nodded.
Indeed, you are a skilled warrior, Alex.
And I'm an excellent target for stray laser blasts.
RUSTEE added dryly.
Don't sell yourself short, RUSTEE,
Alex said, chuckling as she holstered her weapon.
You're great at being sarcastic under pressure.
As the group made camp for the night, the oppressive feeling of the dark forest seemed to lift, if only for a while. The sky above was strange and beautiful, alien constellations twinkling in hues of violet and blue. Alex found herself sitting beside Zephyr, staring up at the stars. They sat in a comfortable silence for a moment before she spoke.
This place, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It feels ancient, but in a way that's hard to explain.
She said. Zephyr nodded thoughtfully.
Our world holds many secrets, some even we Guardians do not fully understand. But we must protect it from those who would exploit its power.
Alex turned to look at him, intrigued by his calm demeanor and connection to the land around him.
You're different, Zephyr. I've met many people in my travels, but I've never met anyone like you.
Zephyr smiled, his eyes reflecting the light of the stars.
And you, Alex, are unlike anyone I have ever encountered. You have the heart of a warrior, but also something more.
Alex's cheeks flushed slightly at his words. She was used to compliments, but something about Zephyr's voice felt different. Before she could respond, the wind picked up and a chill ran down her spine. Something in the air had changed again, an ominous presence creeping back.
We should rest.
Zephyr said, standing and offering her his hand again.
The path ahead will be even more dangerous.
Alex took his hand, allowing him to pull her to her feet. As they returned to camp, she couldn't shake the strange warmth she felt whenever she was near him. Alex paused, leaning against a moss-covered tree.
RUSTEE, how long have we been here?
According to my calculations, approximately 6 months, Alex.
6 months. It felt like a lifetime, yet just a blink in the grand scheme. And in that time, her connection with Zephyr had deepened beyond friendship. Morning broke over the alien landscape, casting the mountains in a cold, pale light. Alex, Zephyr, and RUSTEE resumed their journey, the dark forest looming ever closer with each step. The path became more treacherous as they neared the artifact's location. Jagged rocks jutted out from the mountainside, obscuring their view, and a dense fog settled over the trail.
According to my scans, the artifact is just beyond this ridge,
RUSTEE said, floating alongside Alex.
However, the energy readings are growing increasingly unstable.
Alex glanced over at Zephyr, whose face was set in a grim expression.
What exactly is this artifact, Zephyr? What kind of power are we dealing with here?
Zephyr hesitated, his eyes narrowing as he looked ahead.
The artifact is older than our civilization and the forest itself. It holds the power to bend the fabric of reality. In the wrong hands, it could bring about untold destruction.
Alex's heart pounded as they pressed onward, climbing the final slope. At the summit, they found themselves standing before a massive stone altar. The artifact was at the center of the altar, glowing with pulsating energy. A jagged crystal radiating a dark, foreboding light.
Whoa!
Alex breathed, staring at the artifact.
That thing looks like bad news.
Zephyr stepped forward, his voice quiet but firm.
It is worse than you can imagine. If the dark force takes hold of it, this world, perhaps even the entire galaxy, will be in danger.
RUSTEE emitted a series of worried beeps.
The artifact's energy is highly volatile. I recommend extreme caution.
Alex drew her weapon, instinctively scanning their surroundings.
We need to destroy it. That's the only way to stop this.
Zephyr nodded in agreement.
But it will not be easy. A powerful barrier protects the artifact, and the dark force will not allow us to approach without resistance.
As if in response to his words, the ground beneath them trembled. Shadows gathered around the altar, swirling and coalescing into a monstrous form, embodying the dark force itself. The creature that emerged from the shadows was massive, its form shifting and twisting as if made of pure darkness. Its glowing red eyes locked onto Alex and her companions, and it let out a deafening roar that shook the earth.
Here we go!
Alex muttered, raising her weapon.
RUSTEE, any weak points?
RUSTEE scanned the creature, its sensors flashing.
Its core appears to be located at the center of its mass, but it is heavily shielded. You will need to weaken it before you can strike.
Of course,
Alex said, rolling her eyes.
Why would anything be easy?
Zephyr stepped forward, his staff glowing with a bright, protective light.
I will distract it. You focus on the core.
Alex nodded, tightening her grip on her blaster.
Got it, let's do this.
The battle began with a flurry of movement. Zephyr moved with incredible speed and agility, his staff striking the creature with blinding precision. Each blow sent ripples of light through the creature's dark form, but it was far from defeated. Meanwhile, Alex circled the battlefield, looking for an opening. She fired several shots at the creature's core, but they were deflected by the shadowy barrier surrounding it.
RUSTEE, I could use some help here.
Alex shouted as she dodged a swipe from the creature's massive claws.
Working on it.
RUSTEE replied, analyzing the situation.
The barrier weakens momentarily after Zephyr's strikes. You will need to time your shots precisely.
Alex grits her teeth, her mind racing. Timing wasn't her strong suit. She was more of a dive-right-in kind of gal. But she had no choice. As Zephyr struck the creature once more, the barrier flickered. In that split second, Alex aimed and fired. Her shot hit the core dead on, and the beast howled in agony, its form rippling and distorting.
We're getting there!
Alex yelled, firing again and again. Each shot weakened the creature further, its dark form starting to unravel. But the creature wasn't going down without a fight. It lashed out at Zephyr with a furious roar, sending him crashing into a nearby rock. Alex's heart leaped into her throat.
Zephyr!
She cried, rushing to his side. He groaned, struggling to sit up, his body battered from the impact.
I'll be fine. Finish it, Alex.
Alex turned back to the creature, her eyes blazing with determination.
All right, you shadowy son of a bitch. Let's end this.
She charged forward, firing her blaster in rapid succession. With each shot, the creature's form wavered, its core exposed for longer and longer. Finally, with one last shot, Alex hit the core squarely, and the beast let out a final, ear-splitting scream before disintegrating into nothingness. As the dark force faded, the atmosphere around the altar shifted. The oppressive energy lifted, and a strange stillness settled over the mountains. Alex stood panting, her blaster still smoking in her hand. Zephyr slowly rose to his feet, his face pale but his eyes filled with gratitude.
You did it.
Zephyr said quietly, walking over to her.
The dark force is gone. The artifact is no longer a threat.
Alex let out a shaky laugh, her body trembling with adrenaline.
Yeah, well, that's what I do. Save the day and all that.
But as the words left her mouth, something unexpected happened. The artifact began to glow again with a soft, ethereal light. Before Alex could react, the light enveloped her, pulling her into a vision. In the vision, she saw herself, years older, wiser, standing before a group. They looked at her with respect and admiration as if she were their leader. And standing beside her was Zephyr. But the vision continued. She saw something else. Something that sent a chill down her spine. She saw a child. A child with Zephyr's eyes and her own determination. The vision faded, and Alex stumbled backward, her breath catching in her throat.
What? What was that?
She whispered. Zephyr stepped forward, his eyes filled with sorrow.
There is something I must tell you, Alex. Something I should have told you from the beginning.
Alex's heart pounded in her chest.
What is it?
Zephyr met her gaze, his voice barely a whisper.
I am your father.
The words hung in the air, heavy and impossible to comprehend.
My what?
Alex stared at him, her mind reeling. Alex stumbled back, shaking her head.
This is insane. I'm pregnant with myself.
Zephyr nodded, his expression filled with regret.
It is a paradox, a loop in time. The child you carry is you.
Alex felt like the ground was falling out from under her. Her whole life, all the adventures, all the close calls, it had all led to this impossible, mind-bending revelation.
I don't know what to do,
she whispered, her voice trembling. RUSTEE, who had been silent throughout the conversation, floated closer.
Perhaps a calming meditation session would be beneficial.
No, RUSTEE,
Alex muttered, running a hand through her hair.
I need a drink. Crap, I can't have a drink.
Alex sat in stunned silence, her mind racing with the impossible revelation. She glanced at Zephyr, who stood with quiet remorse, and then at RUSTEE, who hovered awkwardly nearby.
So, let me get this straight,
Alex said, her voice unsteady.
I'm pregnant with myself, and you, Zephyr, you're my father.
Zephyr nodded, the weight of his confession clear on his face.
Yes, Alex, I understand how overwhelming this must be, but it is the truth. The child you carry is you.
Alex let out a shaky laugh, disbelief washing over her.
This must be some twisted joke, right? I mean, how is this even possible?
It is a paradox.
Zephyr explained, his voice calm.
One that exists because of the artifact's power. Time is not linear when such forces are at play. What was, is, and will be can all coexist in ways beyond our understanding.
RUSTEE, still processing the information, chimed in.
Technically, the odds of such a temporal paradox occurring are astronomical. But as we have learned, Alex, you have a talent for defying the odds.
Gee, thanks,
Alex muttered, burying her face in her hands.
This is beyond messed up.
Zephyr stepped closer, his expression softening.
Alex, I never intended for this to happen. I fell in love with your mother, and from that love, you were born. I returned to prevent the dark force from destroying our world and yours. But I didn't expect this.
Alex raised her head, looking at him with confusion and hurt.
So, what now? Do I go back to my time and raise myself? How does that even work?
Zephyr hesitated.
That is a choice you must make, Alex. You can return to your own time, or you can stay here. But either way, the child you carry will be the key to keeping the timeline intact.
Alex stood up, pacing as the weight of the situation pressed down on her.
This is too much,
she muttered.
I didn't sign up for this. I wanted adventure, excitement, not a paradox, baby.
RUSTEE, ever the voice of reason, floated closer.
Perhaps you should consider the broader implications, Alex. While this situation is highly unusual, it could be an opportunity to shape the future in ways we cannot yet foresee.
Alex glanced at her companion, her eyes narrowing.
Rusty, are you advocating for me to stay here and, I don't know, should I raise myself?
Rusty tilted its head.
I am merely presenting all logical options. However, I calculate that regardless of your choice, you will rise to the occasion, as you always do.
Alex groaned.
Great! Now, even Rusty is giving me a pep talk.
After what felt like hours of contemplation, Alex finally stopped pacing. Her mind was still spinning with the magnitude of what she had learned, but a strange sense of clarity began to form. She looked at Zephyr, who had been waiting patiently.
I don't know how to feel about this, she admitted, but one thing I do know is that I can't run from it. I must face this, whatever it is.
Zephyr stepped forward, his expression one of quiet pride.
You are stronger than you realize, Alex. No matter what happens, you will find a way.
Alex nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced.
I'm still not sure how this is all supposed to work, but I guess I'll figure it out.
Rusty, sensing the gravity of the moment, added,
If it's any consolation, Alex, you have always thrived in chaotic situations. This is simply another complex equation for you to solve.
Alex couldn't help but chuckle at Rusty's attempt at reassurance.
Thanks, Rusty, I think.
Taking a deep breath, Alex made her decision.
Okay, Zephyr, I'm going back to my own time. I don't know what the future holds, but I must try to understand this. Maybe everything will fall into place eventually.
Zephyr nodded, understanding in his eyes.
I will not interfere, Alex. The path you choose is yours to walk. But know that no matter where or when you are, you will always have my love.
Alex's heart tightened at his words, and for a moment their bond softened the enormity of the situation. No matter how strange or impossible, Zephyr was still her father, and that was a connection she couldn't deny. With the artifact now dormant and the dark force defeated, Alex and RUSTEE began preparing to return to their own time. Though damaged in the crash, the time-warping device had been repaired to a barely functional condition. Enough to get them home, or so Alex hoped. RUSTEE hovered beside her as they made the final adjustments.
The temporal stabilizer is recalibrating. We should be able to initiate the jump in just a few moments.
Alex nodded, her hands moving swiftly over the control panel.
Good. I'm more than ready to get back to my own time. This whole situation has been a lot to process.
She glanced over at Zephyr, who stood silently by the edge of the clearing, watching them with a bittersweet expression. Alex hesitated for a moment, then walked over to him.
Zephyr,
she began, her voice soft.
I don't know how to say goodbye in a situation like this.
Zephyr smiled gently, though his eyes were filled with emotion.
You don't need to, Alex. Goodbye is only for those who part. And though time separates us, I will always be with you.
Alex felt a lump form in her throat, and for the first time in what felt like ages, she allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. She reached out and embraced Zephyr, holding on to him tightly.
Thank you,
she whispered.
For everything.
Zephyr's arms encircled her, his presence warm and steady.
Go forward, Alex, and know that you carry with you all the strength you need.
With one final, lingering look, Alex stepped back.
I'll see you someday.
She turned and returned to RUSTEE, who was already preparing the device for temporal displacement.
Ready?
RUSTEE asked, its eye focusing on her.
As ready as I'll ever be,
Alex replied, looking at the alien landscape. She activated the time warp device, and with a surge of energy, they were engulfed in a bright flash of light. Alex awoke to the gentle hum of an air conditioner and the soft rustling of sheets. For a moment, she lay there, staring up at the ceiling, her mind still groggy from the disorienting trip through time.
That was the weirdest dream,
she muttered, rubbing her eyes. But just as she sat in bed, A loud, insistent sound cut through the air. It was a baby's cry. Alex bolted upright, her heart racing.
What the?
The crying grew louder as she stumbled out of bed and followed the sound down the hallway. She reached the living room where a small glowing device sat on the coffee table, emitting the wails of an infant. Alex blinked in confusion.
Rusty!
She called out. Sure enough, her companion floated into view, a mischievous glint in its metallic eye.
Guilty as charged.
Rusty said, hovering closer. Alex crossed her arms, an incredulous look on her face.
Rusty, what is this? Why is there a baby crying in my living room?
Rusty shrugged.
Consider it a social experiment. I wanted to observe your maternal instincts in action.
Maternal instincts?
Alex repeated, exasperated.
Rusty, I'm a time-traveling space explorer, not AI.
Rusty interrupted.
Precisely. And yet, during our adventure, you displayed a remarkable capacity for empathy and selflessness. I was curious to see if those qualities extended to child care.
Alex groaned, shaking her head.
So you decided to prank me with a fake baby, real mature Rusty.
Rusty hovered a little higher.
It's not entirely a prank. I've programmed the device to simulate the needs of an actual infant. Feeding, diaper changes, the whole 9 yards.
Alex's eyes widened in horror.
You're kidding, right?
Nope.
Rusty replied cheerfully.
Consider it a crash course in parenting.
Alex sighed, running a hand through her hair.
You're unbelievable, Rusty.
And you, Alex,
Rusty said, its tone somehow fond.
are full of surprises.
As Alex stared down at the glowing device, she couldn't help but laugh, partly in disbelief, partly in resignation. Her life, it seemed, was destined to be one wild adventure after another. And though the path ahead was uncertain, she felt ready for whatever came next. Because if she could survive time loops, dark forces, and paradox babies, then she could handle anything. With a determined smile, Alex picked up the device.
All right, little one,
She said with a sigh.
let's see what kind of adventure we're going on next.
And with that, her strange story, unpredictable and full of heart, continued.